What is up, everybody? We are live here for another episode of the JM Sports Show. I hope everyone had a good weekend, enjoyed NFL Week 1 and college football Week 2. As I will break down Week 2 here on this Tuesday, September 11th, of course, remembering all those lost their lives 17 years ago today. Somber day in our country. But I think it's great. Now here we are. We can discuss the less important things like sports. And so away we go with college football week 2. Recapping the week that went on, what happened in week 2, and then I'll, at some point, either tomorrow or Thursday, have an episode on NFL week 1 and my thoughts on what happened in the NFL this week. But today is college football. That'll be my focus. And probably what we'll see as we move on is on like a Monday. Hopefully, I'm going to try and do it on Monday. Hey, Dave, Packers, baby. Yeah, the Packers did win on Sunday night, and we will discuss that in the NFL episode. And obviously, with the Aaron Rodgers injury, all those concerns. But today, college football in week 2, and I have some notes written down for what happened, my new top 25, as well as an updated Heisman watch. So, without further ado, the big story, I think, one story that isn't really being reported on from college football week 2 is after 31 years, the University of Kentucky Wildcats defeated the University of Florida Gators. 31 straight years, Florida had beaten Kentucky. That streak ended on Saturday. I had Florida in my top 25. They drop out of the top 25 after that. If you think about it, Ronald Reagan was president, and the Berlin Wall was still standing when Kentucky last beat Florida up until today. So my new top 25 looks like this. Alabama's at number 1 still. They remain at number 1, as they have been since the preseason, and they beat Arkansas State 57-7 this week. They rolled Toto Tagovailoa had the start. He tossed 228 yards and 4 scores. Jalen Hurts had a couple of touchdown passes. And Najee Harris had a monster day on the ground. He had went for $135, 13 carries, and a score of his own. So Alabama will start their SEC schedule at a place they have struggled in the past, and that is against Ole Miss in an away game this coming Saturday. So that should be a very interesting one to watch as we see if Alabama can go to 3-0 on the year. Remaining at number 2 is Clemson. They beat Texas A&M 28-26. Clemson's D struggled this week to contain the offense of Texas A&M. Jimbo Fisher's offense there. The Aggies had chances to beat the Tigers, but lost out on a 2-point conversion late. They also had a fumble through the end zone that led to a touchback, and the Tigers getting it at their own 20. So the Tigers lose that game, or the Tigers win that game, but that's a kind of scary road test there against the SEC's Texas A&M Aggies. And so certainly look for better next week. They do face an FCS opponent in Georgia Southern next week. Number 3, I have Auburn remaining at number 3. They beat Alabama State 63-9. They bounced back this week after struggling on the ground. The ground game bounced back this week after struggling in their win against Washington in week 1. But they did have 430 yards rushing this week, and they dominate. They start their SEC schedule. I believe that game will be on CBS. It will be the CBS game of the week as they take on LSU. And I believe that is at Gordon O'Hare. So that should be a fun one indeed, as Auburn They got kind of a week off playing the FCS school, but now it's back to the grind and trying to stay competitive in what's shaping up to be a very interesting SEC Western division this year. Obviously, with Alabama, with LSU, and with Auburn, all potentially competing for the SEC West crown. Then Wisconsin, they won. They remain at number 4. They beat New Mexico 45-14. The Badgers, they started a bit slow, but Jonathan Taylor goes to a career high 253 yards on 33 carries and a score. So Jonathan Taylor leads Wisconsin to the win as they start slow, but they end up rolling as they beat the New Mexico Lobos 45-14. Oklahoma, they win as well. They beat UCLA and they remain at my number 5 spot. Oklahoma beat UCLA 49-21. They roll again. Kyler Murray and company blasted the overmatched Bruins. Bit of a slow start from the Sooners this week, but they overcome it. They win big. But the big concern is the injury to Rodney Anderson, who has had 2 previous seasons lost a leg and 2 back injuries, and now he has a knee injury that will keep him out for the rest of the year. The good news is with Oklahoma, they do have a very deep running game. You obviously think of that Trey Sermon, who has been an excellent feature back for the Sooners these past couple of seasons, and now the pressure up on him as well as Kyler Murray, some of these receiving core like Hollywood Brown. But the way they've competed and the way they've played, I think they can overcome the Rodney Anderson injury they have in the past, as Rodney Anderson's had a litany of injuries over the years. Number 6, I have Georgia. They win. They beat South Carolina 41-17 in their SEC opener. The Bulldogs, they've struggled against the Gamecocks, particularly on the road, but they rolled this week as their defense it came out to play. The Bulldogs have kind of a gimme game up against Middle Tennessee State on Saturday. They go up 1 spot from 7-6. They switch places with Notre Dame, who won, but barely against Ball State, 24-17. I think it's kind of chalked up to that post-win hangover after beating Michigan in week 1 by the same score, 24-17. But they woke up just in time to avoid the upset and beat the Cardinals. They face Vanderbilt, who is 2-0 this week. But because of that close loss, because of the way Georgia dominated, they and Georgia switch spots, 6 and 7. At 8, I have LSU. They beat Southeastern Louisiana 31-zip. They were slow at times. It was a short week. They had only 6 days coming off that win against Miami, which even though they played very well and dominated, that still takes a lot out of you because you have to be playing at 100% to beat a team like Miami. But they have a very tough SEC opener against Auburn this Saturday. So LSU remains at 8. Stanford is at 9th. They beat USC 17-3. Bryce Love comes back after struggling in week 1 against San Diego State. He ran for a $136 in the score, and the defense they could be a threat to take down Washington and win the Pac-12 North this year. They have an FCS opponent in UC Davis this Saturday afternoon, so it should be a gimme win as they stay at number 9. Number 10, I have Virginia Tech. They remain at 10th. They beat William and Mary 62-17. They only had 5 days of rest coming off the Monday night win against FSU on Labor Day. But the Hokies, they needed that cupcake opponent with that short rest. They got it. They win easily. They remain at 10th. Ohio State sees a bit nice little jump from 14th to 11th as they continue to jump from my preseason rankings. I had them 25th. It seems like my prediction that they would struggle without Urban Meyer was wrong. They crushed Rutgers 52-3 in their Big Ten opener. So now they're 67% of the way through, but certainly a hard game coming up this week against TCU, much harder than the first 2 weeks against Oregon State and against Rutgers, the weakest teams in the Pac-12 and Big Ten, respectively. He is at practice this week, Urban, but he can't be on the sidelines. Big matchup against TCU, of course. A loss against Oklahoma last year was one of the reasons that Ohio State missed out on the playoff. Obviously, with Baker Mayfield coming into the horseshoe last year and beating them. So they have another big one against a different Big 12 opponent in TCU, but one that's been tough so far this year. I have them ranked 14th. So Ohio State comes in at 11th. Number 12, I have West Virginia. They beat Youngstown State 52-17, so they remain right at 12. They feasted upon their FCS foe as the injury ravaged defenses gets a revamp. Giovanni Stewart moved into the linebacker place to replace Chris Benton, who suffered a season-ending injury week 1 to his knee. They take on NC State in a final non-conference game as Big 12 play will begin in a week from Saturday. Penn State week 2, they beat Pitt 51-6. Little doubt this week from the Nittany Lions as they remain at 13th. Of course, almost losing week 1 against Appalachian State, needing overtime to beat Appalachian State this week. They left no doubt. They crushed the Panthers 51-6. And they ran up the scoreboard. I think they really wanted to put that week 1 struggle against them, even though they won in week 1. I think they wanted to put it. They want to put in the eyes of these pollsters how good they can be. So they certainly proved that with a 51-6 win. They have another cupcake, Kent State on Saturday out of the MAC. So Penn State remains at 13th. Not really a tough out-of-conference schedule. That struggle against Appalachian State, if they do end up losing in Big Ten play, might be a fact, but maybe it gets kind of canceled out by this big win against Pittsburgh. TCU, they won big. They beat SMU 42-14. They go up 1 in the rankings from 15 to 14. They were good. It was a little muddy. It was a rainy affair. They were stuck at times, but when Cavante Turpin had a 78-yard punt return that sparked them, that led to the blowout. They win big there. Of course, they have Ohio State on Saturday in what will be a very tough game for the Horned Frogs and Coach Gary Patterson. 15th, I have Mississippi State. They beat Kansas State 31-10. Wasn't the best of both Snyder's teams in Manhattan, Kansas, so their opponent wasn't at their best, but they had a complete performance. They continue to prep for that tough end of September and early October, but not really tough this week. They play Louisiana at Lafayette on Saturday. They remain at 15th. Washington remains at 16th. Of course, the week 1 loss to Auburn. Week 2, they played North Dakota out of the FCS and won 45-3. Their home cooking. It was an overmatched FCS squad, but a nice bounce back win if you're a Huskies fan after the frustrating loss in Atlanta and Auburn. They win against Utah this week in their Pac-12 opener. I think that could put them back in the discussion of the college football playoff, particularly if teams like Ohio State lose or some of the other teams in front of them. But certainly the Pac-12, they're going to have to play perfect in conference play, and that starts this week against Utah. 17th, I have Central Florida. They go up 2 spots in 19th. They beat South Carolina State 38-zip. The South Dakota co-reigning champs, they're not scheduled like Alabama. They're not really playing anyone big. They were slow at times, but they still win comfortably. I should have had it written down. UC, they play at UNC this week. But actually, no, that game got postponed because of the hurricane. So their week 3 game has been postponed, Central Florida. So they get a week off, unscheduled week off, but a week off as Hurricane Florence makes its way towards the Carolinas. So if you're down in the Carolinas, if you're watching this, be safe. If you're total evacuate. Because this looks like a monster Storm, and it's already knocked out the North Carolina State games this weekend, including this one up against Central Florida. So Central Florida remains at 17th and have idle this week because of the storm. 18th ranked, I have Maryland. They beat Bowling Green 45-14, and they had a bit of an anemic start. They had 14 penalties, but the fourth quarter they go as they come in winning by just 3. They score 28 unanswered. They rout Bowling Green. And they host Temple Saturday at noon. That should be a fun game for Maryland at 18. They remain at 18th from week 1. 19th ranked, I have Boise State remaining at 19. They beat UConn 62-7. They made the Huskies look like an FCS team. Let's be honest. Compared to soccer, the thing about it was like they were Chelsea or Arsenal, and they were playing a team from like the league championship. For all you soccer fans, a little nod there. Any simile for an overmatched opponent though could be used to describe how they handled UConn this week. 62-7 speaks for itself. 41 points and 514 total yards in the first half alone. Much tougher test this week as they visit Oklahoma State in Stillwater. Number 20, Oregon. They had an FCS opponent, Portland State, 62-14. Justin Herbert, right where he left off, just played in the first half in the route. 18-24, 237 yards and 4 touchdowns. And he had season 9 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions. But has only played in 4 quarters, as he has only played in the first half for 2 back-to-back weeks of blowouts. As the Oregon's been able to play their second and third teams against overmatched opponents these first 2 weeks. And more of the same should be coming Saturday evening as they take on San Jose State. 21st, I have Colorado. They beat Nebraska 33-28, and they jumped from unranked to the land of the rankings. Impressive opening win against Colorado State in week 1, and then this week they beat another hated rival in Nebraska. They spoiled Nebraska's Scott Frost's debut, and they do have a premier quarterback in Steven Montez. I think that 5-7 finish, it may as well be ancient history from last year. And they go for win number 3 and should get it as they place FCS opponent New Hampshire on Saturday. 22nd and remaining at 22nd, I have Miami. They bounced back from a week 1 win against an FCS opponent as they beat Savannah State 77-zip. Hurricanes overcome that devastating white one loss to LSU. They take out their anger on the Sisters of the Poor, as I used to call them. Those kind of teams that you schedule early in the season to pad your stats a bit. Mark Rozier, 2 touchdowns, passing, 1 on the ground. N'Kosi Perry, his backup, had 3 touchdowns, his first 3 of his collegiate career. Step in the right direction. They could take another small step this week as they take on Toledo in Toledo this Saturday. Remaining at 23, I have Michigan. Of course, they lose. They're also losers in week 1. They bounce back against the Max Western Michigan, the Broncos. Michigan ran for 308 yards, rushing after having just 58 in week 1. Really helps if you playing these weaker teams if you're coming off a loss to get in the win column, get some confidence. Shea Patterson, I think, got some confidence. 12-17 for 125 and 3 scores. Again, Michigan really relies on that running game. The Wolverines look to make it 2 in a row Saturday as they host SMU at the Big House. But they remain at 23 for this week. 24th, USC plummets all the way down from 14th with their loss to Stanford. I think they're really missing Sam Darnold here, and I think that really showed this week at Stanford. It was the first time they couldn't stop Bryce Love. He goes over 100 and has a score. And it was the first time he haven't been without a touchdown since the 2016 opener when they were beaten 52-6 by Alabama. And the first time they have, and the least amount of points they've scored since they were shut out on November 1st, 1997. I was just 1 year old then, and I'm 22 now. Really shows you how dominant USC has been even in some of the lean years. Least amount of points, just 3 points as they lose They play University of Texas and Austin. Two programs on kind of a downward trend, but a rematch of the 2005 national championship, that classic game back in 05. But this year, not looking like either of those teams will be heading to the championship. And then at number 25, welcome to the top 25 to another Pac-12 school, Arizona State. They beat Michigan State 16-13. I think a lot of people panned the hiring of Herm Edwards this offseason as the longtime NFL coach and former, and more recently, commentator. There was a lot of head scratches and scorn at that hiring. But I think Edwards is the one laughing now because Arizona State is off to a 2-0 start. And with the in-state rival Arizona at 0-2, USC's 1-1, UCLA is 0-2. And the Pac-12 South not exactly looking strong otherwise, at least in preseason projections. Arizona State has a good chance of winning the Pac-12 South. So they look to make it 3-0 as they take on San Diego State out of the Mountain West this Saturday. Heisman watch Bryce Love. His stock bounces back after struggling in week 1. His first 100 game of the year, also his first score. Khalil Tate stock down. I think you could pretty much send Khalil Tate out of the Heisman watch after this week. They lose big. It was a 48-15 loss. He did throw for 341 yards on 24-45 completions, but he did not throw a score, and he had a couple of interceptions. He did run one in, so Tate put up some numbers, but a big loss and some struggles. I believe Tate was benched as well. Tagovailoa, his stock was up. But I mean, again, against Arkansas State, you expect him to put up the numbers he did. 4 touchdowns this week. Trace McSorley, stock neutral, played great, but expected against Pitt. Again, much after that week 1 struggle against Appalachian State, you really need that statement victory in conference play. So he looks for that. Jonathan Taylor, Wisconsin, his stock is up. They beat New Mexico easily. Taylor sets career highs in rushing yards. He goes for a couple of scores. Kyler Murray, welcome to the Heisman watch. His stock's up, obviously, as he propels himself into the Heisman watch for this week. He's been excellent the first 2 weeks. This time against UCLA, goes for 308 yards passing, 19 to 33 completions, just had the 1 pick and 3 scores. He also adds 2 rushing scores, but he will need to keep playing that because he won't have Rodney Anderson again in that backfield for the rest of the season with Anderson with that knee injury. So Murray, if he wants to make people forget a bit about Baker Mayfield, getting the team to the college football playoff, certainly winning it would be a huge step. But Kyler Murray, the 2-sport star, of course, baseball's number 9 overall pick to the A's this past draft. He can show us he can play on the gridiron as well, as he has shined these first 2 weeks at Florida Atlantic in week 1 and against UCLA in week 2. Oklahoma, let's see. Oklahoma takes on. I usually have this written down. They take on Iowa State Cyclones at noon in their conference opener this week. So that's my thoughts on college football. My new top 25. Not a whole lot of huge changes like week 1. Week 1 had a lot of big changes with all the big non-conference teams. This week, a lot of teams kind of scheduling cupcake opponents, but a few changes. There's a few conference openers, and then this week more conference openers as well. You should see some changes in the rankings. So hopefully, see a nice wow week in college football. But thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to subscribe to my channel down below. Follow me on Twitter at FadeMoney18C, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you.